Hello YouTube. As you can see today, I'm in my sandbox, and today what I'd like to do is to go through a step-by-step process of how the houses are made for the game 1867. And you can see today we'll start in my sandbox. Here's a palette of all the parts that we use to make the different houses: windows, doors, shutters, open shutters, folded, closed shutters, folded, and then the flat shutters. We've got chimneys, roof dormers, the guttering, and at the very back you can see a set of different textures that have been applied to different parts that we may use in the course of the building. So this is my sandbox, and today you can see I've actually laid out a series of buildings one after the other because it takes me 3 hours to do a building, and I'm sure you don't want to sit here for full 3 hours, so I thought I'd go through a condensed talk of the different processes used. So today we're going to start off with this very first building. This is how Cyberpiper passes the buildings on to me usually. He works in Blender and he builds the buildings as 4 parts. We've got the floors inside that are made to fit the building exactly. The inside of the building, I'll quickly show you that. There you can see the inside of the building, and of course this is really strange. The inside has no outside, so as I cam around you might see a wall disappear, because when you look at it from one side you can see the wall, and when you look from the other side the wall disappears because it's just the inside only and no outside. And then we've got the outside of the building, and then we have the roof there, and usually they're past me looking like this. Sometimes though Cyberpiper might add some texture to the walls just to start me off, and today actually the house he's passed on to me today is this one. And you may recognize it as being the very first house that you reach when you cross the bridge walking away from the church. Now, often what I'll do if the house is passed to me completely plain, I'll put textures inside, but today this one actually has been applied with textures. But the first process is to make sure the floors are wood and brown. So I'll do that now. And I'll go for wood planks and brown. The inside I always set to wheat and concrete to give it a nice textured appearance on the walls. The outside I tend to go for concrete. Quickly do that. And the roof, strange enough you might think slate, but no. The roof is always fabric. And the reason why it's fabric is, before I quickly go to fabric, let's look at this roof. As you look at it, it's got this awful glowing reflectance coming from the roof, and that really does look quite ugly. So we use fabric just to get rid of reflectance. So the last material is fabric. Now the next process is I quickly cam round the 4 different corners and make sure the roof is attached correctly to each corner. And I'll just quickly check this one. Yep, yes, that one's done. Let's check this corner. This corner is done, that's good. And I'll check this corner as well. And what I'm doing is I'm clicking on the part and clicking on F for focus, which brings me in really close, and it means the camera can then cam around that particular point. In fact, actually I've done this roof just before, and I know that when I cam around that all the corners fit exactly. So this one has been done and dusted. Next, it's a case of adding the windows. Now, I've added one window in here already, and the window is made out of 4 parts. We've got the window frame. Let's just move that so you can see it more clearly. There it is, window frame. and then tucked inside the window frame is a wooden frame which forms the lattice of the window, and then tucked inside the wooden frame is a glass window, and I'm going to just pull the glass out so you can see more clearly. Now if you look really carefully you might spot that the window has been applied with dirt. To make it easier to see, I'm going to remove the transparency, and you'll see that there's dirt inside each corner and edge of the window to give it a dirty appearance. And then behind the window we've got a mesh ragged curtain. Previously I'd hang the curtain behind the window frame like so, as it would naturally be, but I found when I did that when people pass by you can see a glint of light here on the floor and there up on the ceiling, and sometimes it just looked untidy. So over the last few months I've got in the habit of moving the window and the mesh curtain to match. Oh, I haven't done enough. You can see there's a little bit of blue there. I'll just put it forward a bit more. There we are. And that way when people walk past you don't get that flash of colour behind the window, which I don't think looks that professional. So the next job is to cover the house with windows, and that is easier said than done. And the reason why it's easier said than done is if I come into one window, the problem is the house is not set at zero orientation. In fact, it can't be. So when you move things sideways, they move diagonally. And the reason why is that every house has not got perpendicular walls. The walls might be, say, 92, 93 degrees, because when these houses fit together side by side, there's a haphazard random appearance on the street produced by the fact that all the houses aren't perfect. They may have slightly obtuse angles or slightly acute angles in the corners, and so it's very difficult trying to produce one window and then cheat by sliding across to get the second window. You have to do this zigzagging effect to get the window to match the second position, and so the issue is it takes rather a long while to move the windows from side to side. And another problem as well is that when you look at any window and then you look at the neighbour, let's look at the window here on the first floor and there on the second floor. The important thing is that no window must match its neighbour, and you can see here we've got a lump of lichen on the concrete window frame, but here on the lower window it's in a different position, and here there's a lump of lichen on the upper concrete window, and here there isn't. And if you look, every window is slightly different, and the way we achieve that is that we have to go into textures and make sure that every single texture for adjacent windows is different from its neighbours. It may have a different offset, or it may have a different stretch horizontally and vertically, but adjacent windows must be different. Not only must they have different offsets and different stretches, the colour must also be different. This one here is a gunmetal. Let's look at a neighbour and see what colour the neighbour is. And this one here, oh, it's dark grey. So all the windows are set to very slightly different colours, and the textures are all set so they have different offsets and different stretches, which is why the windows just take so long. On to the next building. After all the windows have been placed, the next job is to put the doors in place. Now this house, although it has got an interior, if I quickly cam in, you can see it has got an interior, but at the moment this house will not be accessible. So the doors, thankfully for me, are static. However, there are some houses and rooms where you can enter a building, and in that case the doors have been set to collide and swing open on collision. And there's another YouTube video on how I've done that if you look at the playlists. So we've got this house finished with its windows and doors, and next is the most difficult job of the lot, is put the guttering in place. The guttering has to be set so that it matches the wall just by a pixel or two. There should be a slight gap between the guttering and the surface of the wall, and the only way I can do that is to res a temporary part and use that as my focal point, and then move the guttering closer to the wall so it's just at the right distance away from the wall. And then what I do is I cam up to the top and then shift the guttering vertically so it just touches, you can see there, it just touches the lower face of the roof. And finally I have to cam into one side and onto the other and just adjust the length using the stretch command and make sure the length is correct and it matches the edge of the roof exactly. In fact, there you can see it's been done spot on. Has the other side been completed? Let's have a look and see. And the other side has, yes it has. You can see I've done my job before, and there it is. The guttering is exactly in line with the edge of the roof. Onto the nearing the final part, we add in the dormers, which are those small roof windows, and the chimneys. And when I place the chimneys in place, I do try and make sure that the smoke in each chimney is slightly different, slightly different in its hue. So this one has got a light grey smoke, and you may spot there are some dark greys and some almost black smokes around the town, so that when you look at the houses burning for fuel, each house would have a different fuel and a different rate of combustion, which means they look individual. So then that's after about 3 or 4 hours the house is complete, and then the next job is to make sure it works correctly by testing. Click on play, and I've arranged it so my avatar will land by that final house, because the best way of making sure everything is made correctly, that all the parts are set to anchor and there's no flashes of gaps between windows and doors, is just to walk around and quickly cam around each part of the house in turn to make sure that everything is set correctly, that the guttering lies against the lower edge height of the wall, not at the floor but slightly above, and to make sure the doors and the windows all match the outside of the buildings perfectly. Thankfully that one has been done, which means I haven't got to do it again. Now that takes a good 3 or 4 hours for each building, but by the time it's finished the end product does actually look very attractive, and then it's ready to be placed in the game. So there it is, a step-by-step process of how the house is made over the course of 3 or 4 hours. I hope I didn't bore you, because I've gone on for about 14 minutes, but that might give you a slight insight as to some of the chores that we do and how we tackle those chores. Do stay tuned and subscribe for more updates. But until next time, cheerio! Bye!